have to go through something in life or wake yourself up. You have to realize what the fuck you're doing and be like, wow, I gotta wake up.
The perfect example of this shit.
I appreciate you, my boy. Be safe, bro.
Whoa, fancy mid gauntlets. They utilize the land.
Hey, are you allowed to eat popsicles?
Oh, yeah.
Me too. I have popsicles at my house.
Why have these things?
Beanie. House.
I should go home.
Only call 911 in the case of an emergency. What is going on? I am not the bad guy here, Dylan. And you know, it really hurts my feelings when you... Stop that. You do not run away from your friends. Friends do not...
Why have these things?
Beanie Winnies.
Is there some problem here?
This rectangle lady is trying to poison Pablo.
Cover your eyes, Pinocchio. I'm the guy that can make stuff happen around here. It just might cost you a little.
Delicioso. Wait, somebody around here with a no accent.
Excuse me, Senor Spaghetti.
And another thing, what are you fighting?
Fighting? What do you mean?
What do you mean? What do I fucking mean? Why are you getting up and consuming calories? What? You see that guy?
A group of friends was stopped by police, who claimed their car matched a suspect vehicle. But when one passenger refused to provide ID and asserted his rights, the cops quickly escalated.
Did I commit a crime? I'm not even the one driving. Y'all should have a twerk off.
Alright, I'll get you to speak.
Are you out here for EJ? I want to enroll EJ in something called an individualized education program. What's that? I learned about that in school. It just means they'll make special accommodations and give him extra attention, right? Are you in education? No, I took a few early childhood development classes. And
Men are hard to please. Men have high standards. 3 months ago, I went to Wendy's. Got the spicy nuggets. I haven't been to Wendy's in fucking years. Pull up to the window. She's like, hey, here's your nuggets. I'm like, oh, thank you. I go to drive off. She goes, wait, you forgot your Frosty. I was like, I didn't even get a Frosty. It was one of the mini ones. She goes, I know. You just look like you needed something special today. I've been thinking about her for fucking 3 months. 3 months. 3 months. She was like 50. I would have. Oh! I don't care. I would have married her.
It's truly sad that, like, this is 100% fact, though. You know, like, men don't hear compliments very often. Like, you might hear 3 in, like, a fucking 10-year span. You know, and, like, that's why I try to tell, like, women all the time, like, just be respect, a little bit of appreciate. I don't know.
Men are hard to please. Men are hard to please. Men.
well, like, I don't know problem with it. I don't fuck with the I don't play with the, I don't fuck with the, okay, resource pack, it's this, remove this, oh, this is why my world looks like this.
My sister, Sarah, was getting a checkup at the hospital when they found out she had leukemia. Turns out, my bone marrow was a perfect match. Curiosity got the better of me, and I told my family that I was the one who was sick. Their reaction was a unanimous, no way. Donating bone marrow is risky. We can't put Sarah through that, they said. You being sick is your problem. Don't drag your sister into it. You've got to accept what life throws at you. And Sarah herself just flat out refused, claiming she was trying to get pregnant. The last threads holding our family together were ripped to shreds that I finally got it. I left my test results behind and walked out. Done with the whole damn thing when I just found out I was pregnant myself when I got the news about the bone marrow match.my advisor, Dr. Ramirez, had pulled me aside, looking red. He told me that if I wanted to donate to Sarah, I'd probably have to terminate my pregnancy first, and he urged me to think it through and talk it over with my husband, Ben. And honestly, I was told that I'd been taking all kinds of herbs and going through fertility treatments for months to get this baby, and Ben had been practically jumping for joy when he found out I was pregnant. Like he couldn't wait to be AT&T lose this baby. Because the photo could barely stand, but Sarah was only 29, and she'd always been my parents' only child. Their world. If something happened to her, we destroyed .SL. After agonizing about it all afternoon, I decided to go home after work that night at 2 when I got there. They were all having a big, happy dinner, besides Sarah and her husband, my younger brother, and his girlfriend with her too. They were laughing, toasting, clearly celebrating something, but the cozy scene broke the moment I walked in. Everyone's smiles faltered, and they awkwardly put their glasses down. Only my mom forced a chuckle, making a show of being affectionate as she pulled out a chair for me. We thought you were busy, honey, or we would have invited you. But you got lucky. Sit down and eat with us. But she could say all the nice things she wanted. Her actions gave away the fact that there was a distance there. Suddenly, I had this urge to mess with them a bit. I did a complete 180. Instead of my usual quiet self, I turned and gently took hold of her hand that was on my arm. Mom, I'm sick. Her hand stiffened. She played along, pretending it was nothing. Well, if you're sick, eat up. Food cures everything. She didn't even ask what was wrong. She just used the excuse of moving the chair to pull her hand away from me. Matt frowned. Ava, you're always trying to kill the mood. Every time something good happens in the family, you gotta spoil it. Sarah just got a spot on that big European tour. Don't tell me you weren't doing this on purpose. I ignored him and sat down in the chair my mom had pulled out for me. I have leukemia, I said. Matt shut up. My mom's hand, which was reaching for the serving spoons, froze, and they dropped onto the floor. The room went dead quiet. My mom's eyes welled up. She stood near me, wiping tears away. At the head of the table, my dad, who had been quiet, finally spoke up. He said, "You need to tell your in-laws about this. They can afford the medical bills." He shot me a disapproving look. "You need to be more calm about this. Don't be so rash. Don't go and give your mother high blood pressure." Mom scrubbed at her face and started piling food onto my plate. "Your father is right. This isn't something that needs to be addressed right now. Eat first." Sarah smiled like she was a cheerful little girl. "Yeah, you always worry too much. That's what makes you sick. Eat up, laugh, and everything will be okay." I didn't touch my food. I looked around at each of them. "I'm not here to borrow money for treatment," I said. "I came to ask if Sarah could donate bone marrow." The room went silent again. After a long pause, my dad slammed his fork down on the table. "Nonsense." He scowled at me. "Don't you know that donating bone marrow is risky?" I laughed humorlessly. "Isn't saving my life worth a small risk?" My dad stubbornly turned his head away. "We can't risk it with Sarah. Even if it's a 1% risk, that's 100% risk to her." I wasn't surprised by my dad's answer. As the second child, who'd been sent away to live with family friends when I was a kid, he hadn't wanted me from the start, and wasn't excited about me coming back either. But at least my mom and Sarah were friendly to me. I turned to my mom. She was already crying. I looked at her hopefully, thinking that maybe this would be a chance for us to break through the awkwardness between us, that maybe she would see that I was sick and hug me the way she always hugged Sarah. But she just cried and said something even more heartless. She said, "Sweetie, we all have to face whatever fate hands us, and even if you don't like it, you have to accept it." She clutched her chest, looking devastated. "Don't drag your sister into it just because you're sick. If I lost both my daughters, how would I go on living?" That's when it hit me. Mom wasn't worried about losing both of her daughters. She was just worried about losing Sarah. I felt myself losing interest. I then looked at Sarah, the one who this whole ordeal was about. Since I'd been brought back home, Sarah had always been kind to me, even though she she'd always said high and mighty things. It was obvious she had a sheltered life. At least she would tell Matt to stop when he was being mean to me. SL. I still had some hope left, but Sarah's attitude was the opposite of her usual mildness. Her face was contorted in anger as she glared at me. Ava, you're doing this on purpose. She stood up, emotional and angry, like she'd been putting up with me for too long. I've wanted to say this for a long time. You've always felt like our parents were wrong to send you away, so you've...
I ain't gonna lie. Don't let a nigga tell me one of my siblings got motherfucking I'm gonna hit you with the damn. There's only one person. You know, one person only God give my earth. If they needed an organ, I don't go fuck. If I'm about to die, or if I need this organ to live, I'm gonna give it to my dad. That nigga is my ride or die. Niggas be like, oh, my wife got my ride or die. No, my dad is my ride or die. No bullshit. Trying to figure out what which texture is texture. Okay, the zombie doesn't look like that anymore. It looks like that. What texture is this? It's not the original texture. It's like, I don't have nothing wrong with the texture. It's just like, fuck. Resource packs. I need to see texture. Any of these bitches say texture? Add on. What does this one even do? This shit. Remove this shit. Fuck. What am I looking for? So that's also use all that shit textures like that. Load it up now and see if that's why. So that's it. That shit gotta go. I don't like that texture.
Had this dark cloud hanging over you since you came back. You like to make everyone miserable. You act like we don't know, like you suffered so much when you were gone. We know you're trying to make our parents feel guilty. She was breathing hard, like she'd been wronged in some way. She paused for a moment to get her crying under control and then continued. But there's a limit. We can put up with the little things. But when it comes to something this big, something like under any circumstance, Sarah gently wiped away her mother's tears and looked like she was ready to face the gallows. Absolutely not. She said, if you need to be mad, then be mad at me. Don't take it out on mom and dad. I am trying to get pregnant, and I am not giving up my baby for your sake. I laughed again, this time with tears in my eyes, and felt a twinge of pity for her and then said in a soft voice, that's a good point. You can't kill your baby in order to save another person's life. Sarah, confused by my words, turned to comfort my mom on the other side of the room. My mother had begun to gasp, as if she was the one who had leukemia and no one was helping her. She then started to massage her chest. It's your fault, Robert, you idiot. You were so desperate for both a son and a daughter. My dad, annoyed by the tirade, slammed his hand onto the table. He went over to where I was sitting and pulled a huge envelope out of his pocket. He then tossed it onto the table as if he were trying to pay off a beggar. Whether you're actually sick or not, take this money and get the hell out of here. If you give your mother a heart attack, don't say I didn't warn you. The envelope was beautifully wrapped, and it was clear that a lot of effort had gone into getting it ready. When I looked at it more closely, I saw the words, congratulations on the show and have fun, written by hand on the front. I looked at it mockingly. I used this money to help save my life. It wouldn't stop your daughter from going overseas, right? My dad looked at me with disgust and his voice was colder than ever. He said, don't try and get a reaction out of me. It was your choice to try and be treated like your equal. Now, I have to be as blunt with you as possible. We didn't want you, but after you were born we did what we could to make sure you had food and clothes. You shouldn't have been greedy. You shouldn't have tried to pick a fight. He then looked away. I have always taken your mother's advice and I have been patient with you. However, today you were completely out of line. Don't say I didn't warn you. He had finally cast me out. The room fell silent again. They all gave me space to leave, waiting for me to leave their presence. At that moment, I finally understood. No matter how much I wanted it, I could never be a part of this family. And I didn't care anymore. So, the next time I looked at them, I was no longer trying to tread lightly. I weighed the envelope in my hand and slowly got to my feet. I in my heels. I was as tall as my father. I was no longer the young girl who used to look forward to seeing him every month. I looked him straight in the eye and calmly asked him, if you say you didn't want me, then why was I born? Did you lose control of your lower half, or was I the result of a drunken one-night stand? My father's eyes went wide and his mouth dropped open in shock. He stuttered a bit. Before raising his hand to hit me, I moved to the side, causing him to lose his balance. I then turned to my mother and you. I said, "Stop crying. You could have put your foot down a long time ago. But why didn't you? Did my father force you to sleep with him? Was your 140-pound body unable to fight him off?" My mother stopped crying and her look of guilt had disappeared. She pointed at me, trembling. "You're horrible. We have the same blood. Why are you so different?" Sarah held my mom and started to cry as if her mother had been hurt. Matt tried to grab my arm, but their partners also joined in, trying to break up the fight. The room was in chaos. I was thrown around. Before finally getting hit in the face by my DAD.M, my face snapped to the side and I felt warm blood run down my nose. "Get out." My dad screamed, "From now on, we are no longer family. The Johnsons have no connection to you." I put my hand on my stomach. Thankfully the baby was okay. That moment I realized that there was already a connection between me and that small life inside of me, because I wanted the baby. I couldn't give up on IT. So I raised my face and stared at him, dead in the eye. "Okay, that's what you said. I'm not a Johnson anymore." My father stared at me with disgust. "Exactly, that's what I said, and I never take back what I say." I wiped the blood from my face. "Good. From now on, we each have our own fate. The first one to ask for help is a loser." My father didn't answer. However, Sarah yelled through her tears, "That's right. The first one."
This shit gas. Let me hear the rest, Puffo. Like now if you don't let me hear the rest,
I clenched the medical report in my pocket and couldn't help chuckling softly. After this time, I didn't just stay out until late. I partied until the early hours of the morning and drank to my heart's content. I couldn't even muster the energy to care about Simon, let alone a piece of cake. By the time I arrived home, it was already past noon. I was about to order takeout when a message suddenly popped up on my phone. It was from Abigail. "Valerie, I'm carrying Simon." Real nausea surged within me. Covering my mouth, I rushed to the sink while splashing water.
I ain't gonna lie, if you trying to get those first-person POVs, you need one of these.
nah, I don't need one of those yet, my boy. Give me like a year.
Open a Chime checking account in 2 minutes. We'll spot you up to $200 for holiday festivities.
He want to save people. I want to. You know what I want to do? If I catch you committing crimes, I think your ass deserves a shot to the ass. He want to whoop niggas' ass. I want to. Okay, nigga, that was good, Shaq. He want to save people.
You gotta love it, you gotta love it. Hey, don't come here. I'm doing something real quick. What's it? I got your whole nigga Texas. Here. Appreciate it, brother. Hold on, check. Hey, don't come here. I'm doing something real quick. What's it? I got your whole nigga Texas. Here. Appreciate it, brother. Hold on, check. Hey, don't come here. I'm doing something real quick. What's it? I got your whole nigga Texas. Here. Appreciate it, brother. Hold on, check.
Tu memoria micro SD32. Paul is on the phone and he thinks that his girlfriend of 3 years named Leslie might be cheating, so in a second we're about to call her and see if we can catch her. But first, Paul, why don't you refresh everybody's memory on your situation?
We've been together 3 years. I'm worried she's getting back with or in a relationship with her ex-boyfriend from high school. And I was hoping you guys could just pretend to be the credit card company and say she won a free flight and see who she picks.
Okay.
And she's going back home to visit her mom, and I'm not going. And I'm worried that she's been really texting this guy and planning on seeing him when I'm not there.
Okay. Are you ready for us to call her?
Yeah.
All right, man. Here we go. Hi, this is Carl calling from... I was looking for our card holder, Leslie. I'm actually calling you with some good news. Congratulations for being a card holder with us and racking up so many points and miles on travel. You've won a voucher for $600 in free travel for yourself and a companion.
Oh my god. Wow, this is so cool. Thank you. So what do I do?
Well, it's simple. Your voucher will go automatically into your account online, so the only thing that I would need would be the name of the companion that you would take with you. Now, I can give you some time to obviously think about that, but unfortunately, they ask that we give them that information ahead of time,
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Okay, great. This is the first and last name will be Allison.
Yeah, can you make it to
I'm trying to get through this hole. Yeah, it's life. Oh, there was a game when I used to play the old version of Minecraft, and it was literally a game that was just like this. Let's go. I would have lost, but fuck it. I'm trying to find a place I want to build my house. I don't care where it's at this time. Never understood why the fuck they add so many fucking trees. They added more tree spawns than usual. Like there's like no flat ones. Fuck around. Might just fucking terraform this entire world. I ain't seen no fucking village yet. Hear a bunch of sheep, there's a village nearby. Okay, it's not that bad. Well, the place where I gotta be decent, cause these niggas get off at school. Both in school, both he don't get out until like nothing. 2, son. None of this shit log flapping in. I ain't seen no fucking village yet. I ain't gonna hold you, big fella. How to knock up at the door, how to go check it out. Some people low-key Gee, this shit looking bit ass. I ain't gonna hold you. Like the landforms ain't that bad. This is that. This shit don't got shit. I haven't seen not one fucking village. And them bitches important for them niggas what they have to do. Create. 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 Let's not add shit to it. It's this. Create the little motherfucker first.
Update. Just 2 months before my wedding, my brother Paul is on the phone and he... Alright, man. Here we go. In travel, you've won a voucher for $600. Unfortunately, they asked that we give them that info. You can also give them the good news with like a little bit of an e-card type situation.
Yeah, maybe just say that things keep getting better, and after this trip, we can go back and have the talk.
I'll just read it back to you, okay? It says, your boyfriend of 3 years, Paul, is on the phone right now listening to this and probably wants to know why you got the companion ticket for Joel and are sending Joel that message.
Wait, what?
Did I get that right?
I'm gonna let you blow minutes.
Update.
Show gas though.
My wedding, my brother knocked up my fiance and wanted to marry her. So my mother offered her money and asked her to marry her favorite son. So I cut everyone out of my life and left to begin a new chapter. 3 years later, my ex-fiance arrived at my door in worn-out clothes, with a child by her side, and gave me a letter from my mom demanding I fix the mess my brother had created. But
bitch, please. Turn off. Damn. I don't know how to deal with that. Let somebody send me a text that, let's say hypothetically you get cheated, I get cheated on. Right. I'll get cheated on. Right. And Shorty, Shorty hit me with the, you dig, right? I'ma look at you like, that's crazy. That's not my kid though. I can't, I'm not the type of nigga, for me to raise another nigga kid, I gotta talk to your ass. I gotta be talking to you while you already got a kid. Fuck it, I don't care. The jungle, bro. Are you serious right now? Okay. So I need Electra. Cause I need to go find a village. I might low-key make us play Minecraft and put all the fucking horror mod shit in it. And then make it hardcore so if we die the world gets deleted.
refused and kicked her out. Part 3. She told me it was God's plan for Lila to get pregnant like that, and that maybe Mason and Lila were always meant to be. Her words hit me like a slap in the face. It was as if she was trying to justify the unimaginable, to excuse what they had done because it fit into her newfound fantasy of becoming a grandmother. I told my mother right then that I knew exactly what she was doing and that if she chose to side with Mason and Lila, our relationship was over. I wasn't bluffing either. The betrayal by my brother was bad enough, but to have my own mother align herself with them was something I couldn't accept. My father tried to stay neutral, perhaps thinking it would help diffuse the tension. Anyways, my mother offered Lila financial support, assuring her that she and the baby would be well taken care of. But of course, there was a catch. My mother insisted that she and Mason had to get married. After all, this was what Mason desired also. Mom was relentless in her pursuit of this outcome, refusing to even entertain the idea of her grandchild being born out of wedlock. When I found out that Mason and Lila were actually going to get married and had started sending out wedding invitations to our relatives, I was left furious and humiliated. Without arguing further, I just kept my word and cut my mother and brother off from my life. However, my mom doesn't give up easily. For weeks after the fallout, she'd call incessantly, leave voicemails, and even show up at my doorstep uninvited, trying to guilt me into reconciliation. It was suffocating. That's when I knew the only way to escape her was to leave the city entirely. 3 years have passed since I uprooted my life and moved to a new city, cutting ties with almost everyone in my family except for my dad. He respected my decision to move away and understood why I needed the distance, though it saddened him that I no longer visited. In these 3 years, I rebuilt my life piece by piece. I didn't share my new number with anyone except my dad. I made new friends, found a sense of normalcy again, and worked hard to leave the past behind. So imagine my shock when I found Lila on my doorstep yesterday, ringing my doorbell. When I opened my door, I almost didn't recognize her at first. Lila looked nothing like the woman I had once loved. Her clothes were shabby and worn, her face pale and gaunt, her hair looked thin and unkempt. She stood there clutching the hand of a little girl who couldn't have been more than 2 or 3 years old. The child had Mason's sharp features, an unmistakable resemblance that he was her father. For a moment, I was too stunned to speak. My mind raced with questions. Why was she here? How did she find me? What did she want? The years I had spent trying to forget her and the pain she had caused seemed to collapse in an instant. Finally, I broke the silence. Lila, what are you doing here? Her eyes welled up with tears and her voice was shaky as she asked if she could come in as she had something important to discuss with me. My initial instinct was to say no, to send them away. But then I glanced at the little girl by her side, and she was staring up at me with these innocent white eyes. I couldn't bring myself to be rude in front of a child, so I stepped aside and motioned for them to come in. I showed them to the couch and offered them water. Once they were settled, I sat across from them and asked what they were doing here. I already mentioned what they found me on their own. I hadn't given my address to anyone except my dad, and I tasted a piece of the secret of something important to me. So what was it that was so important to me? Instead of answering me, my mother was facing back, still at my entities. She handed me the I opened it and looked at it. My stomach touched something uncomfortable. My mom appeared to know I said that it was my responsibility. She laid out how Lila and Jesse were dead, how Mason was dead, and how Mason and brother had given me I should step up and take care of them now. I looked up at Lila, confused and angry. What are you supposed to do? I asked, holding my breath. Then when Lila broke in and began telling me the whole story, according to her, Mason had always been unfaithful to the marriage he was married to. Even after Lila gave birth to that other man, my brother continued that affair for however long time he thought it was. He just disappeared. Since then, Lila had been on her own. She had no job, no savings, and no home. She and Mason had lived in a rented place, and without it, she couldn't afford to stay. My mom, feeling some sense of obligation because of Jesse, had been giving Lila money to support them. But now, with Mason pretty much gone for good, my mom had decided she no longer wanted to be responsible for Lila and her child. Lila then went on to tell me that my mother wanted me to take care of Lila and Jesse since they had nowhere to go and no one else to turn to. I was completely repulsed by what she was asking and how ridiculous it was for both her and my mom to expect that I would help. My mom had not only sided with Mason during the initial betrayal, but was now attempting to dump the consequences of his actions on me. It was infuriating, but it wasn't surprising. My mother's relentless favoritism toward Mason had always blinded her to the damage he had caused. I immediately told Lila, quite bluntly and in front of her child, that she had no right to expect any help from me. I mean, this wasn't my child, she wasn't my fiancée anymore, and this was clearly not my responsibility. Although I did feel bad that Mason had just left her, she should have seen this coming. After all, he isn't the most reliable or trustworthy person anyway. I wasn't going to be guilted into helping, so I asked Lila to leave. She started to cry, saying she had nowhere to go, no money, and that whatever she had left, she had spent it on gas to come and see me. I ended up giving her a few $100 before asking her to leave. Since then, although I know what I did was right, I can't help but also feel a bit guilty. I feel sorry for that poor child. Update, just 2 months before my wedding, my brother knocked up my fiancée and wanted to marry her. So my mother offered her money and asked her to marry her favorite son.
Shit.
I honestly don't even know where to start. Seeing so much support that was a big red flag. He told me the following.
I ain't gonna lie. I would have to tell her. Tell her that's good too. I ain't gonna lie, she like a fucking pound.
So I got everyone out of my life and left to begin a new chapter. 3 years later, my ex-fiancée arrived at my door in worn-out clothes, with a child by her side, and gave me a letter from my mom demanding I fix the mess my brother had created. But I refused and kicked her out. Part 4. Okay, so I would like to clarify a few things. My mom's behavior in this situation is completely baffling to me as well. The fact that she's trying to guilt me into helping Lila and her child after everything that's happened feels incredibly selfish. I get that she might feel obligated because of her grandchild, but she shouldn't expect me to clean up after her.
Let me check some quick.
Her son's missing, especially after how she completely disregarded my feelings and sided with Mason during the whole betrayal. Her request just feels even more out of line. I agree with some of your comments that my dad betrayed me also. Instead of offering the support I needed after the fact, he took a neutral stance. Although he did scold my brother that one time, he never really sided with me completely. By not challenging my mom's manipulative behavior, he also played a part in this betrayal. I plan on having a talk with him soon. Lila may have been left by Mason, but that doesn't automatically put the responsibility on me to take care of her. She made choices, and even though I could feel some sympathy for her given the circumstances, I don't owe her anything. The fact that she showed up on my doorstep with nothing to offer but a sad story and a child only highlights her desperation. What I did, telling Lila to leave, giving her money but not offering to take on more responsibility, was an act of setting boundaries. I didn't shut her out of the fight. I simply made it clear that it's not my job to fix what Mason broke. I'm not obligated to take care of her just because she's in a tough spot now. No, that child is definitely not mine. Lila and I had already broken up weeks before she got pregnant, and by the time we ended things, we had stopped being intimate for quite some time. The timeline is clear, and there is absolutely no possibility that I was wrong. Moreover, Jessie has all of Mason's features. Her face, her eyes, her smile. It's like looking at him as a child. There's no doubt in my mind that Mason is her father. I don't think it's a that child because it resembles his own face. The child is undoubtedly his, and I'm not going to congratulate him. Showed up at my place, I would call the police. My dad attempted to apologize again, pleading for me to listen, but I wasn't interested anymore. My voice didn't falter as I spoke, but the weight of the words hung heavy in the air. Don't call me again, I said, cutting him off. Just don't. You made your choices, and I'm making mine. Without waiting for him to respond, I hung up the phone and immediately blocked his number. What my dad has done is unforgivable, and there is no going back from this. Update 3. It's been almost a month since my last update. I was finally able to track down Mason with the help of one of my buddies. It turns out Lila was right. Mason has been living with his latest fling a few towns away from home, pretending like he has no responsibilities, as if he has no family. I can't believe that this was the same guy who had told me with a straight face that he was in love with Lila 3 years ago. The same guy who had turned my life upside down. And now, after all of that, he was living with someone else, pretending as if he hadn't just abandoned his wife and child. It was infuriating, maddening even. How could someone be so selfish, so cold? The fact that he could be so casual about it, like abandoning his own flesh and blood, was just a minor inconvenience, made me sick. After I found out where he was, I forwarded his address to Lila. I didn't want to get involved in any more of her drama, but I didn't want her to feel completely helpless either. So I gave her one last...
One mistake could cost me the life I never knew I wanted. I'm Savannah, 29, and I've been married to James, 38, for 4 years. Well, I guess I should... You're wasting... I spotted him sitting on a bench near the water wearing that faded Stanford engineering hoodie he refuses to replace. He looked tired, older somehow, but his shave and his hair was neatly trimmed. Part of me wanted to run up and hug him, tell him to come home so we could forget this whole thing, but another part of me remembered how he just walked out. How he'd abandoned our marriage instead of stepping up. You look well, he said when I sat down like we were casual acquaintances running into each other at Whole Foods. I waited for him to say more, to apologize for disappearing, but he just sat there watching the ducks. Finally, I couldn't take the silence anymore. So that's it? You're not even going to explain why you went? He turned to look at me and his eyes were different, distant, like he was looking at a stranger. I think you explained it pretty clearly. Sav, I'm a failure, dead weight, not good enough to be your husband or potential father. I was upset, I said. You know how intense things get during big projects. I just needed you to understand how important this is for our future. Our future? He repeated slowly. You know I've been thinking a lot about that, about what you said regarding my career choices and ambition. He shifted on the bench, turning to face me. Did you ever consider that maybe I'm exactly where I want to be? I felt that familiar frustration bubbling up. How can you say that? You could be making twice what you make now again. Just let me finish. He cut in, his voice loud but not angry. I've spent the last 10 years developing sustainable water treatment systems. My work has helped bring clean water to communities that desperately need it. Last month, my team's project in Honduras got approved for expansion. It's not much, it won't be a to share it against, but it matters. I'm not saying the work isn't important. I try to use it. But I think we can do so much more, making bigger projects managing larger teams. That's just as big. I don't want to manage larger teams. I don't want to spend my days in strategy meetings and budget meetings. I want to get solving in the actual work. And yes, I don't want to be the arts because he's been convicted of putting all kinds of restrictions on the workforce. We could have so much more. I have to bring this. His son-in-law made an earplay on the lens over. His voice, grace. It's close to both our jobs. We have great neighbors, and it's more than enough space for two. I spotted him sitting on the bench near the water. I told my husband to stay
Oh, I understand. What fucking texture pack is this? Cause this texture pack ugly as shit.
Starting a family by now. Instead, every time I bring it up, you have a new goal we need to hit first, a new promotion to chase, a new house to save for. When's enough enough? Oh, so this is my fault? Because I have ambition? Because I want us to reach our full potential? See, there it is again, our potential. You keep using that word, but you only mean your version of it, your definition of success. He pulled out his phone and showed me a photo of him with a group of kids, all wearing garden gloves and huge smiles. These kids from the community center, they'd never seen a tomato plant before our garden program. Now, they're growing their own food, learning about sustainability. That's success to me. That's potential.
That's happiness.
Different languages. That's lovely, James, really. But we can't build a future on feel-good moments and tomato plants. Actually, we can. I make 6 figures doing work I believe in. We have a beautiful home, no debt besides the mortgage, and healthy retirement savings. But none of that matters to you, because Rachel's husband just bought a lakefront house, right? I flinched. That's not fair. No, what's not fair is having a partner who measures your worth by your LinkedIn profile. He stood up, shoving his hands in his pockets. I love you, Savannah. I have since the day we met, but I don't recognize you anymore. The woman I married was ambitious, yes, but she also had compassion. She understood that success isn't just about money and status. The woman you married grew up. She realized that in the real world you have to keep pushing forward, or you get left behind. Left behind by whom? Your colleagues. The neighbors. When did their opinions start mattering more than your own happiness? Then our happiness? I stood up too, anger and hurt making my voice shake. So what now? You're just going to throw away our marriage because I want more for us? No, he said quietly. I'm stepping back because you can't see that what we have is already enough. Because you'd rather tear me down. Then accept that my dreams are different from yours. He started to walk away, then turned back. You know what the irony is? I've never been prouder of anyone than I am of you. Your drive, your intelligence, your ability to make things happen. They're incredible. I just wish you could be proud of me too. James, wait. But he was already walking away, leaving me alone with the ducks, and this hollow feeling in my chest that somehow felt worse than when he first left. I sank back onto the bench, my carefully applied makeup running with tears. My phone buzzed, Rachel asking if I wanted to come over for wine and girl talk. I ignored it. All I could think about was James's face when he showed me that photo of the garden kids. When was the last time I'd seen him that animated about anything? When was the last time I'd even asked? No, I'm not going to let him turn this around on me. I'm not the one who walked away. I'm not the one who's satisfied with just existing. There has to be more to life than this, right? There has to be more than being content with enough. Another week has passed, and I've really messed up. Like the kind of mess up that makes all our previous problems look like nothing. I can barely write this without feeling sick to my stomach, but I need to get it out somewhere. After that disaster at the park, I threw myself into work even harder, staying at the office until midnight, taking early morning calls with overseas clients. Anything to avoid our empty house. Rachel finally convinced me to get out of my funk by joining her and some colleagues for happy hour last Friday. I told my husband he was a failure, and he walked away. I thought I'd won the argument, until I realized I'd lost the only man who ever truly loved me. Now, one mistake could cost me the life I never knew I wanted. So you're just giving up on us? On everything we planned? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. The plans keep changing, Sav. When we got married, we talked about starting a family by now. Instead, every time I bring it up, you have a new goal we need to hit first. A new promotion to chase.
If you're seeing this, Prize Picks is available.
Final update. I told my husband he was a failure, and he walked away. I thought I'd won the argument, until I realized I'd lost the only man who ever truly loved me. Now, one mistake could cost me the life I never knew I wanted. About how we could bridge our differences. My heart actually stopped for a second when I read it. He's trying so hard to fix us, and here I am, carrying a secret that would destroy any chance of reconciliation. I should tell him, I know I should, but every time I think about it, about seeing the look in his eyes when he realizes what I've done, I can't do it. So I sit here in my house, my house now, I guess, surrounded by all these things I thought were so important. The designer furniture these days said it was necessary. The huge TV I insisted we needed. The framed magazine article about my company's success. None of it feels like enough anymore. But maybe that's been the problem all along. Nothing ever felt like enough to me. And that's why I was so finally happened yesterday. I suggested we leave the house. Not my house, he emphasized. He's trying to make everything perfect. His favorite thing except for everything I'd done. He arrived right on time. Of course, that was always his thing, reliability. The same quality that makes long is boring. He looked different though, more resolved. I was wearing a new instead of casual clothes. I realized it wasn't going to be the reconciliation I hoped for. I've been seeing a therapist, he said after we settled in the no more love. He helped me understand some things about us, about myself, about why I didn't really diminished in our marriage. I opened my mouth to argue, but he held up his hand. Please let me finish. I need to say this. He took a deep breath. I love what I do, Savannah. I love what I do for real people's lives. I love my community learning program. And yes, I love that I can leave work at 5 p.m. and have time to actually live my life. That's not my organization. It's choosing a different kind of success. I know, I said quietly. I've been thinking about that too. Have you? Because here's what I think. He leaned forward, eyes intense. I think your case is not being extraordinary, that you've forgotten how to just be happy. Everything has to be bigger, better, more impressive. But when is it enough, Sav? When do you stop and actually enjoy what you've built? The guilt was choking me. I had to tell him. James, there's something that's on you, Savannah. 4 simple words, that made my world stop spinning. Last Friday, I was picking up takeout downtown when I saw you getting into that Uber. I saw who you were with. The room started. James, I don't. Your voice cracked. Just don't. You know what's funny? I came by that night to surprise you. I had this whole huge plan about how we could compromise. Maybe I should take my responsibility at work. Feel back find a balance. I even bought your favorite gelato. He laughed, but it sounded wrong. I waited for hours, called hospital so she could come home. Convinced myself something terrible had happened. Finally, I told my husband he was a failure, and he walked away. I was crying now, ugly sobs that I couldn't control. It didn't mean anything. I was drunk and upset and what? Looking for someone more ambitious. The bitterness in his voice felt like a slap. You know what real ambition is, Savannah. It's working on something you believe in even when it's not flashy. It's choosing to be kind when it's easier to be cruel. It's building a marriage based on trust and respect, not competition and status. I know I messed up, I whispered. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling. Take some time. No. He stood up, and I noticed he wasn't wearing his wedding ring. We can't fix this because you still don't get it. You're not sorry about what you did. You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry because this makes you look bad. Even now, you're probably wondering what people will say when they find out. He wasn't entirely wrong. Part of me was already dreading the gossip, the judgment, Rachel's fake sympathy, the office whispers. I filed for divorce last week, he said quietly. The papers are being delivered tomorrow. I'm not doing this to punish you, Dad. I'm doing it because we want fundamentally different things from life, and neither of us should have to change who we are to make this work. But I love you, I said, hating how small my voice sounded. Maybe you do, he replied, but you love your idea of success more. He walked to the door, then turned back. You know what the saddest part is? You're already successful. You have a great career, a beautiful home, respect in your field. But you'll never see it, because you're too busy looking at what everyone else has. He left then, and this time I knew it was for good. I sat there for hours surrounded by all the expensive things I'd insisted we needed. The designer lamp that cost more than James's entire garden program budget. The smart home system he said was unnecessary. The framed achievements on the walls. My phone kept buzzing, probably Rachel wanting to know how it went. I turned it off. For the first time in years, I just sat in silence, really looking at my life. I thought about James's face when he talked about his water treatment projects, about those kids in his garden program, about all the times he tried to share his joy with me, and I dismissed it as settling for less. The divorce papers arrived this morning. James was thorough. He's not asking for anything except his personal belongings and garden equipment. He even left me the house I was so proud of, but sitting here now it feels less like a victory, and more like a monument to everything I got wrong. I keep thinking about what he said about being extraordinary versus being happy. When did I decide they couldn't be the same thing? When did I start measuring success by other people's standards instead of my own? I don't know what happens next. My big project at work doesn't seem so important anymore. Rachel's calls go straight to voicemail. The house feels too big, too empty, too much. Maybe James was right. Maybe I never learned how to be satisfied with enough. But I'm starting to think that's something I need to learn. Not for him. It's too late for that, but for myself because all this ambition, all this pushing for more, it's left me with a lot of expensive things, and absolutely no one to share them with. I told him he was a failure as a husband and father. Turns out, I was the one who failed at being a wife, at being honest, at recognizing what really matters. And now I'm left picking up the pieces of a life I broke all by myself.